Welcome to the Practicing Accountant podcast, where we talk about the issues and challenges of being a modern accountant and running a modern accounting firm. Today, we're going to talk about a case study in pricing, talk about capacity. We're going to talk about debriefing the tax season and share some tips for intentional change for better efficiency and client management. We hope you enjoy this episode. I had some news I wanted to share with you, and I know I'm taking over the agenda for a moment, at least, not that we have one. But I worked with a client on capacity over this past busy season. I was going to send you this in email, but I'm just going to tell it to you straight up so that way you can hear it. And here is the results. Wait, not that one. That one. All right, so we worked on pricing and capacity over this past busy season, and the results are she or he, I guess I should say, she or he, they identified 100% of their clients for price increase. Increases were somewhere between 10 to, in some cases, 20%, and I think she even went so far as 30% in a couple of buckets. But from that decision, she lost 16% of last year's revenue. So clients that made up 16% of last year's revenue decided not to continue working with her. Due to the pricing increase. And for background, she hadn't increased her prices in who knows how long. So she basically gave away 16% of revenue. And for the year, after she got through busy season with the price increases and with those clients that stayed, her total revenue is up $16,000. So she lost 16% of her business. She got $16,000 of additional revenue for the clients that remained at the prices that she had set, and 300 hours less time spent working in busy season.
Wow.
It's not bad, right?
Take that.
And this was season one of this effort. So, we're already talking about season two of the effort, which will include probably more of the same.
You bet.
And just that focus on getting rid of those clients that are stuck in those old prices and those old ways, and bringing in more of those clients that are willing to pay what she's worth.
What was her price increase percentage? Do you have a ballpark there?
So she kind of went in different groups. So she kind of looked at like tier 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1 being kind of the most common individuals, 2 being someone who had a C or an E, and right. 3rd being like maybe getting into businesses. 4th one being more robust, more effort, definitely 10 to 15 hours. And I'd say in that bottom bucket, it was like a 20 to 30% raise. In that second bucket, it was probably more like a 15. The 3rd bucket was more like a 10. 4th bucket was more like 10.
Okay.
They weren't dramatic. They weren't like, we doubled price. And I think I maybe remember encouraging higher shifts in their pricing to achieve the outcome. But at the same time, to lose that many clients, I'm not putting numbers on just because I don't have to, but to be up, 16,000 in fees for the year, and not having to spend 300 hours of time, and having less clients and calls and headaches and extensions and things of that nature, it certainly turned out well.
That's a great case study. So our first topic today is maybe a little late in the season 4, but we should talk about debriefing tax season. How to do an after action review of what went well, what didn't go well, what we're going to change for next year, so that we can try to get off this hamster wheel of the perpetual terrible tax seasons. So what are your big rocks in that arena?
Well, the simplest rocks would be, what do I need to stop doing? What did I do this past busy season? I just need to stop. And then the next one would be, what do I need to continue? What changes did I make, or efforts did I make this past busy season that I want to continue to focus on so that I see more of those results or that change in the next year. And then I think the third one, which tends to be probably more significant than the others, is what do I need to stop doing? There's starting things, there's continuing things, there's stopping things. I think those three all need to be given attention. And the way I look at it is I look at it like a football coach on Monday morning after the big game on Sunday. They're watching the tape. They're analyzing what went well in the game, what could have been better. They're changing the game plan and the practice schedule for that coming week. So the next performance, the next Sunday, they're going to show up differently and better. And I think the same thing for busy season. You said earlier in your words that, is it too late? Well, I'll tell you, I'm guessing for a lot of CPAs, if they started doing this now, it'd be earlier than they've done it in the past, if at all.
Sure.
Because it's kind of like the busy season ends and then everyone scatters. Scatter for the hills or the beaches. And get some well-deserved time off, right? And maybe they still have some cleanup they need to do, or maybe they keep pushing on the extensions just to get some of those out. But rarely is this opportunity as available as it is right now because our memories are fresh. Mm-hmm. We're for busy season right now better than we're going to in August because we're going to start getting busy again. And we're going to be looking at other deadlines. And that, it's 9/15, 10/15. And because the hamster wheel continues to revolve, it's hard to get it to pause for a moment to do this work. And so the start, stop, continue exercise is like the simplest way to debrief a busy season. And you just throw things into each of those categories and consider them. Another thing that I came across recently, I call it, or it's called the inflection point. And the basic premise of inflection point is just creating some space to really consider how you've been spending your time and where you want your business to go. And it's a pretty simple exercise, and I'll share it here in just a second. I actually got this out of an article I read online, pointed at accountants. I thought it was a great way to really take notice of your business. But the exercise goes like this. You identify the top 5 opportunities for your business. Like, what are the top 5 things I want to see my business do in the future? And to keep it in a point of reflection, what didn't I do this busy season that I want to be doing next busy season? What are those top 5 opportunities? And just list them. Then what are the top 5 pain points? What are the top 5 things that are causing me pain in the business right now? And for a lot of folks in accounting, it's capacity, it's hours worked, it's having clients that either are creating scope creep or demanding too much of our time, or aren't getting things on time, or aren't being responsive. There's many reasons, why some of those clients would fall into that pain point. And then it might be things like technology isn't caught up, or we've got the technology, but we don't use it. Whatever those top 5 pain points are, identify those. So you've got the top 5 opportunities, top 5 pain points, and then rank them, 1 through 5. Which one of those are going to have the deepest impact, both in opportunities and in pain, to my business, so that next year those things are addressed. You can list those out. And then for each one of those, understand, is it realistic that I can actually change those things? Mm-hmm. Is it realistic in a year that next busy season, or at least by January, so less than a year, can I make those changes? Can I create those opportunities or address that pain? And then after you've identified if it's realistic within this time frame, this is the tough one. You have to ask yourself, am I the leader who's actually going to do these things? Right. Am I the person who's actually going to make these changes? Do I have the will to influence change on my busy season for next year? So, watching the tape, start, stop, continue, and creating a point of inflection, so that you can really make those changes in the coming year.
What are some obviously coming up with 5 areas of pain is pretty easy. You can pick those out almost in your sleep. The harder challenge here is what are some examples of opportunities that you should be looking for within that exercise?
Well, I can probably come up with a number of them, and I'll just start spitting them out. You jump in too. I think a big one is, how, and I say this in my own business, I think everyone does to some degree, how can I make as much or more with fewer clients?
Mm-hmm.
How can I diminish the amount of names and addresses and families that I carry in my head, and really focus on them rather than this vast majority of clients that I have, and still make as much, if not more money. I think that's a popular opportunity. I think looking at other services, looking at the services you provide beyond tax or bookkeeping, and what else could I be doing? Could I bring in financial planning? Could I bring in CFO services or suites or concierge? I think that's an opportunity. I think pricing, as I alluded to at the beginning of this conversation, is an opportunity. And am I priced right? Am I priced based on just what I've always charged my clients or what I'm actually worth? And creating some awareness around how you're pricing and considering if you increase the prices.
One thing that we always try to pull out, especially when we were doing more taxes, clients that clearly needed tax planning and were essentially asking for that, but they didn't really know we offered it. So making a list of, as you said, services, additional opportunities, making a list of those clients that are almost begging for some additional handholding in the accounting realm. That's a big rock. You said pricing, certainly looking at places where, clients are underpaying what you're giving them in value. That could be arguably a pain point or an opportunity, but I think maybe pain and opportunity go hand in hand here. They're, getting rid of the pain can be an opportunity. So.
Sure. I think resources is another opportunity, and also a point of pain, to your point. There's probably either individuals on the team that you kind of wish they weren't, or you wish they were performing at a different level. And if you just found that candidate that fit more of the boxes, then you'd have a much smoother season coming up. I think that's an opportunity. But the key with all of this entire discussion is timing. Like if these conversations, these thoughts are being held in November, like it's too late. I'm not saying it's not possible, because very little is, but to get to November and then to try to influence a significant amount of change in 2 months during the holidays, during times when clients are lucid and our time's elusive, it's tough to make any significant amount of change in such a short period of time. That's why that intention in creating it now as we head into a summer. And June is the month of disappearance for CPAs. It's the 1 month out of the year, and there's typically not a deadline. Now, I know there's probably some deadlines out there that run in June, and maybe you have an off calendar year or whatever. But June's that period of time when we all just want to disappear for a while. We just all want to run and hide. We want to be with our families, want to make up for lost time. We want to reconnect with our healthy habits and the outdoors and patios and grilling burgers. Yeah. But we have to be intentional now with some of the time to do these things, to influence this change, to identify the opportunities and start creating some momentum towards achieving them. Other pain points might be, we're tapped out, we've plateaued, we're not scalable. Technology, we're using it, or we're not using it, and it's painful because nothing's automated, or I've still got a ton of paper sitting on my desk when it should be sitting in the cloud or hard drive. Sure. Another pain point being the technology and the software, and not using it all. I mentioned this earlier, like there's a lot of unused functions of softwares that are sitting on systems and servers that we use the most basic elements of that software and don't tap into the expansiveness of them. And I think that's concerning the pain point because it's self-inflicted. Other pain points might be the market. What's going to happen with it over the next year, and we keep saying that. I'm not going to advocate one way or another, but it's something I know that influences us and our clients. Other pain points might be, kind of tapping out what else.
I think redirecting a little bit. I think one of the biggest missteps we always did was testing during tax season. testing new procedures, so we would create intentionality. We would fix things for tax season, then we would test them during tax season, and that would often bite us in the butt. So what we started doing is testing during extension season instead, and knowing what's going to work for next tax season. So pain points for sure are things that you thought would work last year that you implemented that did not work or really pissed clients off. An example for us was we got rid of organizers because I just don't see much value. So we went to an online form where they could fill out everything, and clients were irate about it. And yeah, it was a tough transition for them. So
to your point, though, I think that because of June and July being slower months and not taking the opportunities to make these changes, then they get put on the back burner. They're still on our list. We try to do them in an urgent fashion. We inconvenience ourselves and our clients, and therefore they just don't get done. Or they get done and they piss people off and ourselves included.
Right. Yeah.
I don't cancel vacation either. I'm not saying you can't go camping or you can't go to Hawaii or whatever it is you got plans to do. But at this time of reflecting and making changes, identifying the opportunities, identifying the pain, deciding what needs to be done is not going to show up on your calendar.
Right.
Is not going to become urgent. No one is going to knock on your door and say, you have to do this or else, or the IRS would call. There's no deadline on this, and that's why it's so hard to implement.
There's no email in the inbox for those of us that run our lives out of the inbox.
And unless we're extremely good at self-accountability, it tends to just continue to get pushed. And I'll do that on Friday, and Friday rolls around and someone calls. Next thing you know, you're in depth into a client issue or a transaction, and it's another week, another turn of the hamster wheel. Like this, basically, this conversation we call breaking the hamster wheel, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make the changes that we want to see in our firms. And unless we create the space and the time to do it, it's not happening.
Mm-hmm. You bet. Another one that always pops up for us is determining where the bottlenecks are, whether that's a person or a step in the process. Oftentimes it can be one very heavily loaded staff member or the owner. If you're a small practice and you're doing the work yourself. Or it could just be a single process like review of, lower level preparers' work, piling up on a senior accountant's desk. So bottlenecks are definitely something to tackle. Sometimes you just can't get around them. I know review was always a difficult step for us to get pushed through. Always clients are their own bottleneck, just getting information in, or missing information. We had a status on our workflow platform missing information, and there will be a time somewhere in late April when 70% of the statuses are missing info. We're just waiting on one document. So that's something to look at.
Ask a question like, was there any intention to create a bottleneck? Like, did anyone set out in their busy season and say, hey, we want to make sure we create some bottlenecks this year?
Right.
And,
no, certainly not.
We got it. But my point of that is bottlenecks are a symptom of disease. It's not a real issue to be focused on. Bottlenecks are a result of something. It's something that was caused. And it may be caused by a poor workflow, it may be caused by bad communication. It may be caused by lack of expectations and accountability or repercussions. It might be the result of just having the wrong people in the wrong seats on the bus. But bottlenecks are a symptom. They're a result of something that's not working. And so to focus on bottlenecks as being the issue is a little bit different than I would propose, which would be what led to the bottleneck. What were, if you traced it back, if you were a forensic accountant and went back to the beginning of that transaction or that return or that client and walked it forward, where do you see problems starting that ultimately resulted in the bottleneck? And communication, I found, was usually at the top of that list.
Yeah.
We didn't communicate enough with the client. We didn't communicate our expectations with the client. We didn't communicate internally about when something was going to be done and provided and reviewed, prepared, so it could be reviewed. Communication tends to be in a lot of things a root cause. And so if there are bottlenecks, communication is one place to look. Are we being clear in communication and setting expectations and holding accountability with our clients and teams? Because usually I find that is not the case, which leads to that crunch that I'm waiting on them, they're waiting on me, someone's waiting on someone, we're not getting everything done, deadline's approaching. I had a client in California that bottlenecks at the partner level. And of course, they were pointing at the individual I was speaking with and saying that there's the bottleneck. Well, they were the bottleneck. They were causing the bottleneck. They weren't communicating when things were going to be delivered and ready for review. They weren't being transparent on timing. They weren't allowing the partner to know when things were coming so that partner could then plan their week and time and prioritize it to ensure that it didn't happen. And so when everything came at once and could have been given and communicated earlier, it bottleneck.
You bet. You bet.
So I concur with you, and I think it's just take that next step, go deeper.
Figure out where that is. Yeah, a good resource for finding bottlenecks you might not even be aware of are your admin level staff, because they're often the ones waiting on someone above them to answer a question or get something done for a client. So that's one of my favorite people to talk to is the receptionist. He or she knows where things are held up more than I do generally. So
yeah. Well, the encouragement I tend to give is don't miss a conversation. And what I mean by that is that usually when there is a bottleneck, there was a missed conversation somewhere along the way. And whether that was with the receptionist, with the client, with the partner and staff, or whoever it was, there was some form of communication missed. And you can probably trace back and say, okay, here's the point in time in which the preparer knew that the information was available, did not communicate it to the reviewer, started to work on it, got it done, then communicated it to the reviewer. By then, there was 3 or 4 others that were starting to pile up, and all that work at once caused the issue.
Yeah.
No missed communications.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that communication with your staff, with your clients, expectations of both. I think that's generally where things will fall out of line. So
I didn't do PwC when I went there, and there's a number of reasons why that is. But primarily, it's just the culture was much different than I experienced it at Anderson. Say it was oil and water, but they didn't mix well. And the feedback I got after year 1 there in no raise was you don't communicate. You don't share enough of what you're doing. You don't keep us in the loop. And to me, I thought I was communicating. I thought I was saying enough. And at the same time, I recognized that some things and things communicative. Second year rolls around, and guess what? I got the same feedback. I don't communicate enough. I got no raise. At that point, it was pretty much you're not going to change, then you're wasting my time and yours. And it's not even working. And I did. I left. And I took that feedback on communication with me. And after I left there and got over being pissed about things, I actually kind of sat with it and absorbed it and said, maybe I could do a better job of communicating. Maybe instead of trying to manage what I should and shouldn't communicate, I'm just going to communicate everything.
Sure.
I did. I went into my next firm and I talked about everything, and I told everyone everything I was doing, and I kept them so in the loop that I got feedback like, whoa, slow down, that's too much. We know what you're doing today. Thanks for telling us you went to the restroom, and thanks for telling us where you went to lunch and dinner. But I was making a point, but it allowed me to adjust my communication from one end of the pendulum to a place that everyone appreciated.
Sure.
And I did make an adjustment. I didn't continue to communicate everything, but it really helped me kind of see my range of what can be communicated. And possibly that's an opportunity and a pain point for, firms to be working on this summer and making sure those don't happen to them.
You bet. Let's talk a little bit about clients, I think. Certainly procedures, workflows, communication, those are big rocks. I think an after action review should certainly include your clients. We all know the pain in the ass client that we should probably get rid of, but are there amazing clients that we should look for more like those, or are there clients that fly under the radar that maybe we can sell more services to? What are some things we should look for with tax season clients?
I think it's a great time to basically, you look at a lot of the bigger firms right now, they're going through their evaluation processes. So senior staff are all getting evaluated on their performance and come back on this compensation adjustments and evaluations, and here's what you need to do. Mm-hmm. But that same process can be used for clients, like sorting through your clients to say, who performed well as a client and who was a shitty client. Yeah. And being able to say, well, you know what, they didn't pay on time, so that's not a great client. Or they only called us once, and it was just so that they could get their return, and then they're going to disappear until next March. Or, they don't value us. They really don't want to talk to us. They don't realize the potential of the relationship. All they want is a transaction. So you grade them that way. Or this one was amazing and paid on time and had the information on time, and they were curious about what else we did. It's a great time to sort your clients and rank them and evaluate them. And because, again, time's forgiving. So, if you wait until August, September, into the fall, you kind of forget how bad it was, or time helps you forgive them for whatever they did. And then it's another year and the hamster wheel is gone again, and it's time to serve them again. But why would we expect any different results? We shouldn't. It's kind of the definition of insanity, right?
Right.
Changes. Why would you expect a different result? I think that sometimes happens with the clients we have. But I think it's one thing to evaluate them, but I think there should be steps after that. And I think there should be steps to say, okay, these are clients that we absolutely love and want to keep, and we want to maybe see them once or twice this summer instead of wait till planning season. And then there's some that you may look at and say, you know what, I'm not going to renew them. I'm not going to reach out to them, or I'm going to send them a letter and ask them to move on, or I'm going to jack their prices by 2 or 3 times, and I'm going to, kind of squeeze them out. And if they stay, at least they're paying that much more.
Right.
Or maybe this is a set of clients that we need to do a better job of communicating with so that we can have a better relationship with them. So I think this reflection point for clients and the service and the relationship is absolutely important too, to your point.
You bet. I think to your point about forgetting, even right now, you've kind of forgot a lot of the pain that happened during tax season. I think it's important to try to keep a tally throughout tax season, just quick notes on what's not working, what client was a pain in the ass. Even if it wasn't a big deal, maybe they just called 3 times in a row and left a message instead of sending an email or something, trivial like that. But keep a tally on staff and processes and clients throughout tax season. That'll make this process now much easier to remember. So,
well, I think just having a Word document where you're bullet pointing ideas and thoughts and clients that were nasty, or that's something that can be done now because it's still relatively fresh. You might be able to remember how you felt in March or April about certain things. But again, what you described is intention, being intentional about capturing those thoughts and those opportunities. And that's, at the end of the day, how you break the hamster wheel is with intention.
Yeah, you bet. Well, that's, I don't have much more on that. Obviously, we could dig into each of those a little bit further, but I think that may be a good topic for another day. But any closing thoughts there, Doug?
No, I think for anyone who is listening, and my hope for them from this conversation, this diatribe, is just a little bit of motivation, and maybe just a little bit of inspiration, or maybe an idea or two of things that can be done now so that next year they are in a better position. And, I started this thing by talking about my client who did the work this busy season to increase prices and saw positive results from it.
Yeah.
positive results being less hours and more fees. Like that came from intention. That came from breaking that hamster wheel. That came from really, and that works. We started in, last busy season right afterwards. And I'm not saying it takes a year to do, but to make those changes and change the mindset, it takes time. And so my hope, my closing thoughts would be, create some intentions around the opportunities and the pain of this past busy season. Identify what you want to start, stop, and continue moving on, and capture it now and start some of that effort now, so that next year really is different and it's not just another turn of the wheel.
You bet. You bet. Awesome. Well, thank you, Doug, for your time, and
Of course.
we'll talk to everybody next week or so.
That's it for this episode of The Practicing Accountant. We hope that you enjoyed this journey with us and this conversation. We also hope that you tune in for some more. Thank you very much for watching. Take care and goodbye.